devices that turn legal weapons into machine guns.
This afternoon, the president meets with parents, teachers, and students. We can expect that conversation to range from gun control measures to even mental health.
Today, Republicans are launching phase 2 of the Trump dossier investigation.
We have found collusion. We found collusion between the Democrats and the Russians.
Everybody wants to blame this on the Trump administration. Let's not forget that this happened under the Obama administration.
Democrats outrage as the Trump administration pushes alternatives to Obamacare.
Now maybe you can get something with a lower premium, cheaper, and it doesn't cover as many things.
President Trump commending the bravery of some of the nation's first responders in the ceremony at the White House yesterday.
Faced with danger, they each put the lives of others before their own.
It's a great honor. Not many people get to go to the White House, let alone get an award.
It happens, and unfortunately then the cherry blossoms are blooming at full bloom way before the party. And that have a big parade.
When are they supposed to bloom? Like April?
Yeah, March,
April.
They have a mind of their own. Also, special thanks to the Japanese. They gave them to us. They did not charge us, right?
They did give them to us, I believe, in like the early 1900s, 1908 or something like that. And then the lights went out. But Washington.
But we had to plant them. We planted them.
I'm sure we did. I'm sure. I don't think they came over and planted them as well.
Yeah. I mean, so if you want to do it again, we'll plant them again. Same deal. You want to do it in 2018.
They just have to hang on. The peak bloom is supposed to happen in about 2 weeks. Okay. Close to March 1st.
They are so beautiful. We have some in Central Park, and every now and then on every corner they sell the flowers. Like there are a few things that are cheap in New York. It's getting your nails done, getting a massage. They charge $1 an hour.
A Prada bag right out there, $20.
You mean Prado? And then the flowers. Sometimes you can get the cherry blossoms, and they're so beautiful. You know, you buy them all the time, don't you?
And if you're tulips and you're listening, it's time to break ground soon.
All right.
Meanwhile,
2 minutes after the top of the hour, today at the White House, President Trump's going to welcome in the Florida community that is grieving after that deadly Parkland school shooting.
All right. This is the president is pushing for a ban on bump stocks and tougher background checks.
Kevin Corke is already up at the White House with a preview of what we can expect today. Kevin.
Hey guys, good morning. The safety and security of America's children is the top priority of my administration. That's what the president said yesterday, reflecting not just the tone, but also the tenor of today's listening session here at the White House, the first of a pair of listening sessions in the wake of the deadly shooting over at Parkland, Florida. Now, today's gathering, with teachers and students, of course, signifies, say White House officials, a renewed commitment to finding solutions to stem violence at our schools, including the debate over what to do about bump stocks.
After the deadly shooting in Las Vegas, I directed Attorney General to clarify whether certain bump stock devices, like the one used in Las Vegas, are illegal under current law. We must move past cliches and tired debates and focus on evidence-based solutions and security measures that actually work.
So the question becomes, what do you do about it? Well, here's California Senator Dianne Feinstein. She says, look, words are one thing, Mr. President, but we need meaningful action. If you want these devices off the street, call congressional Republicans and tell them to stop blocking our bill. Now, all this unfolds after teenage survivors of the shooting went to the State House over in Tallahassee yesterday to try to get lawmakers there to debate an assault weapons ban. They were unsuccessful in making that happen. But again, this is the first of 2 listening sessions today, guys. The other one coming up tomorrow with state and local officials. Of course, I'll be here for you with all the details. But for now, back to you.
All right, standing by at the White House where it sounds like somebody's car alarm is going off.
Yeah, it's a fence alarm. Hopefully, it's nothing to worry about.
Be careful, Kevin.
Well, hope Kevin Corke's okay. So, Kevin, thanks so much. I just think it's going to be interesting. I love that the president's talking to these high school kids. I love the fact that he's going to be talking to parents that are grieving, many of which maybe don't agree with part of the Republican platform and or stance on the NRA or whatever it is. I love the fact that they're going to have a real, unscripted conversation.
Sure, and ultimately, and we've heard it from this White House, Raj Shah the other day, unstable people should not have access to guns. All right, meanwhile, let's talk a little bit about this. Remember, it was within the last month or so, the Republican-led Intel Committee in the House released that memo, and it showed all sorts of surveillance violations.
Phase 1.
That was phase 1, exactly. The Democrat version still is hung up. too many secrets still in it, although Adam Schiff says maybe they'll be able to ink out some stuff by the end of the week and release it. But now
everyone's forgotten about it.
But now we've moved on to phase 2, where essentially what they're looking at is were the levers of government, the federal bureaucracy, used to help Hillary Clinton and hurt Donald Trump.
So their focus is going to be, well, who used the dossier? What did you use it for? And they came up with about 10 questions about that. And it's going to be given to various people that had access to the dossier to find out its role, as we also try to find out from the FISA court, to the FISA court judge, what exactly was the application like? When you handed it to the judge of the FISA court to greenlight the spying on Carter Page, what exact role did the dossier play? In the meantime, what about the overall investigation?
They basically want to know, did you know that it was funded by the DNC? Did you know that it was funded by the Clinton Foundation? Because if that's so, did you use that information to go and spy on the opponent? If so, that's illegal, it's wrong. And he's asking these questions, and he says, if you don't answer them soon, we're gonna fire out some subpoenas. All right, so Devin Nunes, who is the top Republican on the House Intel Committee, came out with phase 1. Now here's phase 2. He was on with Tucker last night. Listen.
The facts are not bearing out to what the Democrats wanted it to be, because we have found collusion. We found collusion between the Democrats, specifically the Clinton campaign and the Democratic National Committee, and the Russians. However, it doesn't seem to be like that. Nobody's interested in that collusion. We've also found felony leaks. Nobody seems to be interested in getting to the bottom of the felony leaks. So it's part of what the House Intelligence Committee, led by the Republicans, are trying to get to the bottom of, despite we're up against a lot of odds. We're not getting help from the Democrats in the House, and we're also not getting any help from the mainstream media.
We did get help from the Senate on the Intel Committee, because they asked the National Archives for any letters and correspondence with Susan Rice and the president. And it turns out there was a letter written on January 20th about a January 5th meeting. And one of the questions was between the president, the vice president, Susan Rice, as well as James Comey. At that time, they said they were talking about Russia and keeping everything above board. It was an odd email. Remember that? One of the questions, number 9, is, was President Obama briefed on any information contained in the dossier on January 5th, 2017? So they're drilling down on exactly what took place.
I mean, everyone has these questions, because if the Clinton Foundation helped pay for the money to get this Christopher Steele dirty dossier, then did she know about it? I mean, the foundation's using the money to pay for this. Did she know about it? Did the president know about it, President Obama?
I have heard that apparently every one of those questions, they know the answers from every one of the people they've sent it to. And so essentially is the people they're sending it to, people like Comey and Brennan and Clapper, if they do not respond, then they're going to be subpoenaed. But if they respond and lie, they're going to go after him. Meanwhile, you know, this all started with Russia collusion. The Russians were trying to help Donald Trump. Sarah Sanders was asked yesterday at the White House, okay, you know, it looked like the Russians were trying to help the administration, the new one, right? Well, what has the administration done to beat up the Russians, essentially, over what we saw happen in the last election? And this is what she had to say about that.
Look, just last week, the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen met with a number of relevant stakeholders. They're discussing this process and going through and looking every single day at the best ways forward. Everybody wants to blame this on the Trump administration. Let's not forget that this happened under the Obama administration.
What did they do? And that's the point. You sit there and you're questioning aggressively Sarah Sanders, which is your right. Where was the aggressive questions outside Ed Henry for the previous 8 years on any of this stuff?
And as we showed yesterday, the President of the United States at the time, Barack Obama, when he was talking about, you know, no reasonable person, he actually knew that the Russians were trying to meddle. Regarding Devin Nunes, what's interesting is I saw an item this morning that a number of people on the political left really want him out. In fact, yesterday, there was a petition with 600,000 signatures delivered to Speaker Paul Ryan's office on behalf of a group called Credo Action and MoveOn.org, asking the Speaker to take Devin Nunes off of the Intel Committee.
They should ask this. They should ask just as many Republicans what they think about Devin Nunes. Many of them are grateful because it's all come out because
they
of
would
him.
think he was a crusader.
Yeah.
Right. Ainsley, if you want to know, CPAC might be an indication he's got a premier speaking spot, and it's going to be sold out when he's going to be speaking this week.
He's the final speaker.
He's the final speaker. I think it's CPAC 2 days. It's today and tomorrow, 3.
It might be 4.
Oh.
Wednesday, Thursday,
we'll
Friday,
find
Saturday.
Out. We'll find out. We've gone before, but I I haven't been there the entire time. But anyway,
right.
we'll find out and let you know. Jillian has some headlines for us.
That's right. Good Wednesday morning to you guys. Let's start with a Fox News alert and get you caught up on this story that we've been following all morning long. A former officer of the month gunned down in the line of duty in Alabama overnight. Mobile police officer Justin Bila was shot responding to a murder investigation.
The hardest thing that we'll ever do as law enforcement officers is talk about the death of one of our own. And this is a sad time for law enforcement here in our area.
The suspect, Robert Holley, opened fire on officers. He then barricaded himself inside a home for hours. He is now dead. It's unclear if he was shot by police or if he killed himself. Defense Secretary James Mattis expected to make his recommendation to the president today on whether transgender people can serve in the military. Since taking charge, Mattis has indicated that readiness to fight is his top priority. President Trump will have the final say on the new policy. In July, he tweeted his desire to ban the service of transgender troops, overturning a 2016 Obama-era ruling. The very first Guantanamo Bay transfer under President Trump could be happening soon. Ahmed Haza al-Darbi was supposed to be transferred to a terror rehab in his home country of Saudi Arabia yesterday, but the U.S. is still waiting for some unspecified assurances from the Saudi Arabian government. Al-Darbi pleaded guilty back in 2014 to helping plot a 2002 al-Qaeda attack on a French oil tanker. Well, there won't be a miracle on ice this year. Overnight, the U.S. men's Olympic hockey team losing to the Czech Republic 3-2. Meantime, Lindsey Vonn, who slammed President Trump before her Olympic run, won't be going home with gold either. The skier settling for bronze in her last ever downhill run. It was supposed to be her best event. Vonn said she'd boycott a White House visit, and she doesn't represent President Trump. Here's the latest medal count. The U.S. tied with the Netherlands for 5th place. Guys.
Yeah, I mean, we were supposed to get 20 medals. We got about 14, but we're 6th. Right behind the country that's not used to be known as Russia because they got banned because of steroids, but they still had to compete.
They are.
So it's a little embarrassing.
That's how it go this year.
A lot going on.
I know.
All right, Jillian, thank you.
Like 14 medals isn't enough.
You know
That's
what?
a lot.
Our winters have
I'm
been...
proud of what we've done.
Yeah, but Americans are used to being number 1, and to be number 5, it's like, what?
Right. Yeah, there's no we're
If
number
you're not
5
first,
chance.
you're last, right?
Right. Yeah,
In the words of Ricky Bobby.
Right, which he's a fictional character, though, Lindsay. Meanwhile, still ahead, Pennsylvania Supreme Court completely redrawing the congressional map. What does this mean for the midterms? And do Democrats actually get an advantage? The word is, the answer is yes, but we'll discuss.
Plus, a very busy Wednesday. Michelle Malkin's going to be with us in a couple of minutes. Put down that remote. We will be right back. Well, Democrats' hopes of winning the U.S. House this fall just got a boost because the Pennsylvania Supreme Court released a new congressional district map that could help the Democrats pick up a couple of seats in the battleground states, some say. The president sounding off on this decision, tweeting yesterday, hope Republicans in the great state of Pennsylvania challenge the new pushed congressional map all the way to the Supreme Court if necessary. Your original was correct. Don't let the Dems take elections away from you so that they can raise taxes and waste money. So how did it happen and what does it all mean? Here to break it down is Republican strategist Eric Beach. Eric, nice to have you. All right, so as we talk a little bit about Pennsylvania, why exactly did the court step in and redistrict?
Well, look, this is a state where Trump won by only 44,000 votes. And so there's a Democratic governor. And in 2011, the Republican House said, hey, we want to have redistricting that usually lasts 10 years.
Right.
So Tom Wolf went to the state Supreme Court. It was a 4-3 decision. So now what we see is possibly 2 or 3 seats being able to be switched from Republican to Democrat.
So usually if they're going to change the districts, they do it every 10 years.
That's right.
But the court stepped in and did it for this Democrat governor.
Right, and here's what's absurd about the process, right, is if you look at the map,
all right,
there could be potentially...
Dave, come on in here.
There could be potentially 1 seat that goes from blue to red.
Okay,
the rest of them basically are from red to blue, especially around the suburbs in Philadelphia area.
When you look at the map, Eric, with the red, et cetera, it looks like Trump got 90% of the land mass of Pennsylvania. But the blue, the Hillary Clinton districts, were down around Philly. All right, now keep in mind that map as we go to the next one. This is how they've redrawn it. So what happens there?
So, I mean, look, Trump won 12 out of 18 of these districts. Now it's basically even, 9v9. So what this means is that the Republicans need to have a good turnout effort if they're going to sustain or retain those seats inside of Pennsylvania.
Okay, it looks to me, and I'm not an expert at this, but it looks like now that those two districts are so close to Philly, the Philly influence is going to turn those reds into blues. That's the worry, right?
Yeah, and what the worry is that you have 24 seats around the country in which Republicans can lose, and that flips to House. And 3 or 4 of those could be from Pennsylvania, just one state.
Okay, and that's how. Let's talk a little bit about the 18th district of Pennsylvania. Donald Trump won with close to 60%. Now there's going to be a special election coming up in a couple of weeks.
Right, and it's March 13th is a special election. Here's the irony. Both of these candidates, after that election, may run in a different district. Both of them don't live in this district, 18, when it's redrawn. So they come out, and then in 1 week they have to file to run again in November for a different district. Rick Saccone may go into the 17th. Conor Lamb may go into the 14th, win or lose. That's how crazy this process is in Pennsylvania.
But when there was that special election, I want to say it was down in Georgia where the guy didn't live in the district. You know, there were a lot of ads that said he doesn't even live here.
Yeah.
They wouldn't really have a good excuse. They've got a great excuse because they just redrew the line.
Yeah, they said, we really live here, right? That's going to be their ads. But, you know, that's just the way the map works.
Okay, and real quickly, the Republicans are going to challenge this, obviously.
They are, but, you know, the Supreme Court, National Supreme Court said that, U.S. Supreme Court said that in February that they probably wouldn't take it up. So I don't see it happening.
All right. Eric Beach, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Still ahead on this Wednesday, he was a sophomore at Columbine High School when 12 of his classmates were killed. Now he's a state lawmaker in Colorado. And after what happened in Florida, he's calling for gun-free zones at schools. Patrick Neville joins us live next. Police 724 here in New York City. We've got some quick headlines for you. First up, a new cybersecurity task force will protect the United States elections from foreign interference. Attorney General Jeff Sessions announcing the program that will also combat online terrorist recruiting and cyber attacks. The announcement came 13 days after, came after 13 Russians, that is to say, were indicted for interfering in the 2016 election. And a Republican congressman is responding to a spike in MS-13 gang violence in his district. New York Representative Lee Zeldin is proposing a bill to strip U.S. citizenship from violent gang members born outside the country. The bill would revoke the naturalization of anyone involved in gang activity 10 years before or after they become an American citizen. All right, Ainsley and Brian.
Okay, thanks, Steve. In 1999, our next guest was a sophomore at Columbine High School when 2 teenagers killed 12 fellow students and a teacher before killing themselves.
Today, Republican Patrick Neville is the Colorado House Minority Leader. He's proposed a bill that he says will protect students like those at Columbine and in Parkland, Florida, in the future by getting rid of gun-free zones. He joins us right now with his plan. Man, are you uniquely qualified to comment on this, Patrick? So let me ask you, what do you think that what do you think gun-free zones would have done for Florida and Columbine?
Well, the current policy of gun-free zones actually invites these kind of attacks. It's not a realistic policy, and it sends a message that our students are soft targets. So I want to end the gun-free zones and actually allow good people to defend our students.
Tell us about what you experienced back in 1999. It was April 20th, 1999, I believe. Columbine, you were a sophomore. What was that day like for you?
It was a pretty rough day. I mean, I'll never forget in the aftermath just rallying in my elementary school, actually, and trying to find students and see who's okay. And, you know, one of the fathers that I knew growing up all throughout my elementary school came up to me and was asking me if I had seen his son, and I hadn't. And later on found out he never saw his son alive again. And then even after that, it was going back to class, and remember in English class, and our teacher said, get with your groups. And she looked at me and noticed that I didn't have a group because one of the students was no longer living and the other one was still in the hospital.
Wow. Do you think they would have...
It was a rough time.
Do you think they would have been alive today if the teachers were allowed to carry guns?
I honestly do think that. I think that had something like this been in place on April 20th, 1999, more of my friends would be with me today.
You also point out, too, that there was an assault weapons ban at that time. ARs were banned in 1999, yet 13 people were still killed at Columbine. This guy, we know what kind of shotgun he had, kind of rifle he had. That was it. So that's one thing that stands out. Arming the schools, hardening the target. What would you like to, did you ever believe in 1999 that we'd be talking about 200 school shootings after that and 400 shot?
No, I never thought we'd still be talking about this till this day, and it's something that I thought that needed to be done for quite a while, well before I ran for office. And the moment I decided to run for office, I decided that I was going to run this piece of legislation.
I know you're a Republican Colorado House Minority Leader. What are the Democrats saying? Are they getting on board now with you after we've seen the aftermath of Florida?
No, they're not. You know, the special interest on the other side, on the anti-Second Amendment crowd, is actually much more fun. It's better funded, and it's very vitriolic. It's very hateful. I mean, the opposition that I'm getting on this bill is just, there's really no logic to it. It's just, we need to not have any guns, which is unrealistic. And the vitriolic and hateful messages I'm getting, it's pretty amazing.
Wow, so the president's going to have a listening session at the White House. He's going to listen to victims and family members of victims involved in the school shooting, especially what just happened in Parkland. What do you hope the president does from here?
Well, there's several things he can do. It's a little trickier at a federal level, but I think, you know, they have a federal ban, making gun-free zones from a federal level. There's some nuances to that we could actually, that's what my bill does. But I think looking at that, he should look at maybe getting behind repealing that. There's some other things we've done at a state level, like the Safe to Tell program we have here in Colorado. That's actually an app, and it allows students to report anything that they feel they need to report, including suicides, suicidal ideations, things of that nature. Something like that is actually shown to work in Colorado, so maybe that's something we need to get behind as well.
Patrick, as someone who's gone through this, what would you say to those survivors down in Florida that are meeting with the president today? Or everyone at that school, basically?
You know, be calm. Emotions run high. I really have no great advice. I would just say as time goes on, for me, I used it as a good changing point in my life. I was really going down a dangerous path before that shooting happened, and that really kind of turned me around and made me realize that life's important. And after that, that's why reasons I joined the Army and I do what I do now. I try to make a difference. So try to find a positive in it, and really don't let your friends die in vain.
Patrick Neville, you're taking action, and you've accomplished a lot at a very young age, and now the House Minority Leader in Colorado. Thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate you sharing your story. Hopefully you'll be involved in this dialogue, and people will be listening to you.
Thank you.
And I love the fact that the kids are taking action. March 24th, they're going to be marching. I think it's great.
Yeah, it's giving them a voice. And like he said, maybe it'll be a turning point in their life, and they can use it for something good.
Yep.
Still ahead, Michelle Malkin joins us live. That's next.
That's her.
Good mood.
It does.
Yeah, I just like the choice of, instead of lyrics, just making noises.
Like that. All right. Welcome back to America's Got No Talent.
I know, right?
All right, it's 7:33 here in New York City. Let's go out to Colorado. Michelle Malkin is the host of Michelle Malkin Investigates on CRTV. Good morning to you, Michelle.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm not going to do my falsetto for you.
That's okay. Thank you very much.
We'll call on Fergie for that.
That's right. You know, every Democrat in the House of Representatives voted against the middle-class tax cut, which puts them in a pickle because it's becoming very popular. A majority of Americans like it. So Nancy Pelosi, who heads up the party in the House, she's in a jam. How does she badmouth something people like? Here's what she said yesterday down in Texas at a town hall.
If what you're doing is cutting the taxes at the high end and therefore not being allowed to invest in the future, you're doing a grave disservice to our country. Some patriotic.
So right. Is it patriotic?
You know, I guess that Nancy Pelosi's copy of the Declaration of Independence says that we have an unalienable right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of higher taxes. I mean, the crumbs comment, I didn't think that she could do any worse than that, and now she's doubled down. I think it's also interesting that the class warfare card, which has been so worn and torn, is still the only thing that these Democrat leaders have left to cling so bitterly to. It was wonderful because in this town hall, somebody objecting to her inveighing against inordinate wealth asked her about her own net worth. And there she was, Marie Antoinette Pelosi, saying, we cannot discuss that. Silence.
Meanwhile, her husband's worth $100 million. And the reason that heckler stood up and asked her that question is she said, I don't think God intends for some to be wealthy and some to live in poverty. And the person stands up and says, how much is your net worth? Are you living in poverty? You know, share the wealth kind of thing.
Yeah, that's right. This is a Beltway Barnacle who has parlayed all of her years as an entrenched incumbent into a massive amount of personal wealth. And so for her to be denigrating average, ordinary Americans, and as you pointed out, Steve, the tax cuts now have a majority of support among Americans. I love it. Keep doing it. Apparently, this is part of a 100-city tour. I can't wait for the next soundbite from Nancy Pelosi.
Hey, Michelle, one of the most underreported stories nationally is a major story locally is the homeless situation in Los Angeles and San Francisco. It is so out of control. Believe it or not, some people are choosing to be homeless, popping up tents and just resigning from society. And now in San Francisco, it's a mess, and you have a lot of these sanctuary cities that are thriving and in a warm embrace from these politicians, but it's destroying the lives of the people.
Yes, it's a dirty open secret, and it has been for several years now, that San Francisco has literally gone to crap. And it is a sanctuary not only for criminal aliens, as many of us have been reporting for years, but a sanctuary for vagrants and drug users and other violent criminals who have taken over. And so you look at the disparity between the rhetoric of San Francisco as this proud liberal haven, and then you look at the actual degradation of the quality of life. You look at the massive cost of living that's involved in order to be able to live in a postage stamp size apartment. And this is Nancy Pelosi's. This is her backyard. This is what San Francisco values are, and I'm glad more people are seeing it.
Let's stay in California because the senator there, Kamala Harris, she said that she was sad that illegals are not applying, not as many are applying for federal school aid. Here's the tweet that she sent out. She said, for a second year in a row, fewer undocumented youth applied for financial aid in California because they are distrustful of our government. This is a direct product of Trump's anti-immigrant agenda. No one in America should ever have to live in fear of our government. Your thoughts?
Yeah, so you can draw a direct line between Nancy Pelosi's attack on Americans who want more of their own money and to be able to keep it as unpatriotic, to Kamala Harris, this radical leftist who is now seen as the future of the Democrat Party, a future that involves crap all over the streets of San Francisco and money redirected from American citizens and law-abiding citizens of this country to illegal aliens. California spends upwards of $23 to $25 billion on illegal alien services, and they will not stop until the country is until their state and our country is completely run into the ground.
All right. Meanwhile, one final topic. Nikki Haley had some comments toward a Palestinian official who essentially told her to be quiet. She said this from her perch at the United Nations.
We welcome you as the leader of the Palestinian people here today. But I will decline the advice I was recently given by your top negotiator, Saeb Erekat. I will not shut up. Rather, I will respectfully speak some hard truths.
A lot of people really like her approach to being the ambassador at the United Nations for the United States.
I do, and I cannot tell you how many times I've found myself saying, amen, sister. I think that we have President Trump to thank for putting a strong woman in this very important position to talk loudly, and I hope that she continues to do so. And I think it's especially important when you are dealing with men in the Middle East who are involved in enabling jihad and subjugating women. Where are all the feminists to cheer Nikki Haley on? Well, I'm up front there clapping loudly for her.
And here's the thing, Michelle, she has managed with the Trump administration to have her own way, yet stay with President Trump's agenda. It's still her, but you never see the president have to rebuke or rein her in like he has the Secretary of State or General McMaster over the weekend, and yet she's had such an important job.
Yes, I think the term is self-actualized. I think that Nikki Haley has become self-actualized, and again, it is a tribute to President Trump to have had the wisdom to put her in that place.
She's doing well. All right, Michelle, thank you very much. Have a great week.
Thanks, Michelle. All right, let's hand it over to Jillian, who has some headlines for us. Hey.
That's right. Good morning. Let's get you caught up on some of your other news of the day, starting with this. Parents who appeared on Dr. Phil begging for the return of their missing 13-year-old daughter, well, now they're charged with her murder.
I do not fear anything's happened to Erica.
Erica is fine. I don't have a doubt in my mind.
Erica Parsons vanished in 2011, but wasn't reported missing until 2 years later by her brother. Authorities now indicting her adoptive parents, Sandy and Casey Parsons, for murder. Her father reportedly leading police to her remains in South Carolina in 2016. The Parsons are already serving time for tax fraud. A chilling new Netflix series explores a very dark question.
Can social compliance be used to make someone push a living, breathing human being to their death? Welcome to The Push.
Whoa. The Push puts an unsuspecting man in the middle of a massive hidden camera scenario. More than 70 actors try to convince him he has no choice but to kill. Netflix says it shows a terrifying truth that our natural instinct is to obey without question. The musket must go. A California Historical Society is biting the bullet, canceling a Revolutionary War reenactment because park officials want them to use sticks instead of guns. The event was in the works for 9 months until the officials enforced a rule saying no guns can be fired inside the park they want to use.
Can you see 12 men in full regalia and another 12 charging with wooden sticks saying bang, bang? It just doesn't have the same effect.
The group is planning on having the rules changed for next year. Let's look at your headlines, guys.
Ridiculous thing. Have you ever heard of problems at a reenactment event?
No.
It's not a reenactment, it's a recreation.
You're right.
Starting from scratch.
Yeah.
Yeah?
All right.
Well, I don't know. What do you mean the difference?
Rather than use a gun, as he did back in the olden days, they're going to use a stick.
That's it. It's
bang,
just,
bang.
It's outrageous. It's another war on history.
All right. Coming up, Senator Elizabeth Warren is the left's poster child for 2020, but did she make a huge mistake that could hurt her chances? Our next guest says, yes, she's having a bad week.
Yep.